What's going on, you loyal listeners? Thank you for tuning in to the L Squared Podcast. I'm your host here, Luke Larson, and we are back. Joining me today, as per the usual, my lovely and loquacious special guest. I almost said co-host.
Special guest. I'm back.
That's close.
I'm back in the special guest seat from an undisclosed location.
That's right.
And feels good, man. We're back.
We made
Another
it.
Successful year at the South Dakota Film Festival.
Boom.
We talked to some great people.
Absolutely.
Had some really interesting conversations. If you haven't checked that out, go ahead. I think there's some really good stuff there. Some incredibly talented people and individuals. And yeah, it was, like it always is. It's a great time.
It is.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you again so much to Tom and Diane so much for having us out. We have such a great time every year. We love being the official podcast of the South Dakota Film Festival. Even if we're not sure we're allowed to say that.
You know what? We're sure.
We're sure. You know what? Josh Kootman gave me the go ahead. He gave me the perm, so
we're good to go. We're in.
Officially, we're in.
I just checked with our agent, and greenlit it.
Oh, great.
We got it.
Perfect.
We got it.
So we're officially official. We are allowed to say it.
Yep.
Well, as the official podcast of the South Dakota Film Festival, we decided that we're going to talk about a film that some other people...
We're really branching out here.
We're taking it to a new level today.
Season 10, we're diving into film, guys.
Right.
Let's see how it goes.
A new frontier here.
New medium.
We're going to be talking about movies. You ever heard of them?
We left the clay pottery and bagpiping to the side.
That's right.
And we know you guys really enjoy that, but hey, we're gonna try something new, and let's see what happens. So, what are we talking about today?
So we're talking about a film that has a lot of people talking right now.
So you may or may not have heard of it.
Right. So I think
if you have an internet bill,
that's right. That's exactly right.
If you have access to social media, if you're like a normal human being, you've probably heard of it. It is the Joker, or
Just Joker. Yep. Take the.
Yes. It's like the Ukraine, right?
That's right. It's like the Facebook. Just take it off.
Yeah.
So, Joker is a film that is centering around Batman's arch nemesis, that character. Everyone knows Joker. Everyone knows that character. Everyone knows that villain.
Are we gonna assume? Are we gonna start off by assuming?
I think so. Wouldn't you say? Come on. Who doesn't know Joker? Really?
Obviously.
Okay,
yes.
Good.
Yeah.
Just say, don't make me try and fight that point already.
Yeah, you know what I'm starting off? Joker. I'm glad we finally got to him.
Yeah, it's been nice,
movies.
Finally, we finally got to see one. He's such a cool character.
This guy just seems like a real pivotal character within the Batman universe. And we just, all these years.
Right. He's just ripe for his own story. And we finally got it.
We're there. So maybe take us in, maybe a little quick synopsis here before we kind of get into it. Tell the people... What is this?
So, directed by Todd Phillips, starring Joaquin Phoenix, Robert De Niro. Directed by, the Hangover director is basically what he's known for. But Old School, probably his best work. But the synopsis basically, in Gotham City, mentally troubled comedian Arthur Fleck embarks on a downward spiral of social revolution and bloody crime. This path brings him face to face with his infamous alter ego, the Joker.
All right.
So
let's get into it.
So going into this, I was excited to see it. Now, when I first heard about it, I was like, nah. I was like, I don't really need to see, like you said, I don't really need to see a Joker movie. I don't really need to see a story about what they think his backstory was. It's like, but, I was like, fine, it's going to happen. I just hope it's dark. And they definitely went dark with it. But I was I was excited to see it just for the simple fact of like, well, I just want to see just a dark Joker movie that's rated R. And we definitely got that. So before we get into like our initial thoughts, where was your head at going into this movie?
So, in a perfect world, I'd be watching this movie next to Jared Leto and like 100 other 30 Seconds to Mars lunatic fanboys, and just me being the only one in the theater having a good time, because it's such a rockin' kick-ass movie.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, I didn't get to live out that fantasy.
Aww.
But I thought that this movie was pretty well done.
Yeah.
Especially, I don't really want to get into any of the DC Marvel stuff.
Great.
As any loyal listener knows, I kind of gave up on the whole DC Marvel universe a while back. So it's so like trodden on territory that I don't even really I don't even really think that this is meant to fit in any sort of cinematic universe. I mean, and the closest thing it comes to is the Nolan Bats, and that that's more or less that story has been told. So I as a standalone, I'm totally happy with it. I'm sure that's not going to be the case, but so yeah, my expectations going in. I mean, I was excited for Joaquin Phoenix, and I mean, I think he's at this point. It's hard to argue with just the generational talent that he is. Like he may or may not be like playing himself in this movie, minus all the murders, because he's kind of a lunatic, but it works here. I mean, you just go through it. Like I don't know where do you even start. I mean, even within the last like 10 years, that The Master, Her, Inherent Vice, You Were Really Never Here, Joker, like it is, guy really doesn't miss, and he always brings it. So I was excited,
yeah, and I can't echo that enough, and I think that Joaquin it just seemed like Todd Phillips did the right thing here, where they were like, let him buck. We got Joaquin. Just take a step back and just let him cook. Just let him go as crazy as he can, and just capture as much of it on celluloid as he can. And I think it really paid off. So coming out of this film, there's been a lot of controversy surrounding this movie since before it came out. Comments that were made by Todd Phillips after the movie, all this dumb shit. And I don't know if it's taking away from the movie as much as, because this movie is a hit. It's a huge hit. And I think that all that controversy plays into it. And honestly, I think a lot of it has been contrived, and I think it was all part of the marketing for this film. I don't know. I think it's paid off. Now, for whatever reason, people are using this film as a catalyst to make whatever kind of point they want about society or whatever you have. But I don't really know if this film really has much of a dog in the fight, other than this dude's crazy, and that's basically what the whole movie's about. It's not. But for whatever reason, people are just, I don't know, putting this up and using it as like, this is the reason that, movies cause violence, video games cause violence. Like, look at this film. Kids are going to watch this movie and they're going to go out and they're going to be violent. They're going to commit all these crimes, but then you have the equally loud and equally annoying other side where like, oh, see how all these other people are using this film saying that it's what causing violence, and what's wrong with the world, and blah, But I don't know what I'd love to hear your thoughts on all of this stuff.
So it all started. I agree with you that I think a lot of the the chatter that followed the opening of this film was contrived. Because one, Hollywood, they want to make money.
You heard it here first.
Having people talk about this, whether it's good or bad, is certainly going to get people into the theaters and watching it on a big screen. I think you're right, and it did have the screeners came out really early for this film. I feel like it bugs me too, because I could care less about the think pieces coming from both sides of the argument that yes, this movie is great, or no, this movie is terrible, when we should, it should not be allowed to be seen. I think it's all stupid, because it's just I feel like you're kind of missing the point.
Yeah,
right?
I totally agree.
Both sides of the argument, whether you because again, you either have to be all the way on one side or all the way on the left. So there's no more middle ground anymore. You can't. It's so hard to use any sort of discourse when you're talking about anything, because I think you can really make any conversation political if you want to.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So the whole lead up to this movie annoyed me, and it made me not want to go see it. I just kind of wanted to just let it sit for a while and maybe watch it some other time. But we being part of the giant media conglomerate, I would say we're a pivotal part of the media conglomerate.
Big time.
Right. We got a podcast to do, so we got to go see it.
That's right.
So I just think it's all bullshit.
Yeah.
I think it's all contrived, and it's a way for you to say whatever that's on your mind, and just kind of use this as a vehicle to get your fucking little stupid stump speech out there.
Yeah.
And it takes. I literally the end of the film is essentially a criticism of everything everyone's saying. Yeah, you probably don't get the joke, right?
Yeah, totally.
It literally sums it up with, you guys are all fucking idiots.
Yep.
And I thought it was a really great way to end the film. But yeah, I don't know. I don't subscribe to any of it. I don't know who is this content for, right? The 1,000-word think pieces of, or the, what 10 things you need to know going into the Joker, or who the fuck is reading that? Who's getting enjoyment out of semi-spoiling a thing that's supposed to just, it's entertainment again. It's your fucking choice if you want to go see it or not. So I don't understand the lunacy of people. Yeah. But again, it's a popular movie, so it's going to be divisive. So
and I really do think honestly, Todd Phillips' big controversial thing that he said, I really think that was written for a purpose.
I missed it. What did he say?
He said,
not to go retread stuff that people have talked about.
I'll paraphrase it, but he basically said that that with quote unquote woke culture, that's why no good comedies are being made anymore, because there's this cancel culture where all these young people just want to see people get torn down. So the whole culture of looking up people's old tweets and stuff to just get them down. He said basically that's why comedians can't be funny anymore, and that's why movies aren't funny as much anymore, because people are so afraid of offending people.
The cancel culture.
Yeah, that's basically what he was just talking about.
I get that, but then I also feel like he's part of the problem too.
100%.
Because I don't think cancel culture did anything to make Hangover 2 and 3 just the fucking
worst
abominations that they were.
they are. Yeah, exactly.
I get it. They literally backed up a dump truck worth of money and said, "Here you go. Like you got to make 2 more. We don't give a shit what it's about. But I mean, this is what happens. You know."
Yeah.
So on one side, yes, he's right. On the other side, I no.
Right.
I think that there is absolutely funny stuff out there
100%.
Right now.
So much.
I don't feel like comedy is dead. I feel like if you're the right person and you are able to articulate yourself well enough. So again, being good at your craft.
Yeah.
I think you can get away with pushing the boundaries and making people uncomfortable.
Totally.
And doing what comedy has done and I think will continue to do for the foreseeable future, right?
100%. I couldn't agree with you more. And like, I think comedy's doing better than it ever has. Like, not just funny wise, but just as a commodity. I mean, you can't say that comedians aren't. But also, like, I mean, look at whatever. I don't have to give you examples. Everybody knows examples, but there's examples out there of extremely funny comedians who aren't trying to push the boundaries or trying to be shock comedians. And, you know, and there's still plenty of them out there, too. I mean, the same ones, like you said. And it's just the statement. I mean, the statement he said, like, that. I mean, that's a thing. It exists, and I hate it too. But it's just as ignorant to say that that's the reason why there's no good comedy when there is good comedy. There's plenty of it, you know. And it's like, well, you're coming at it from the same point of view that they are, just a different side of the coin, you know. But at the same time, it's like, who knows if Todd Phillips actually believes that, or if that was just a statement made to go viral to talk about this film, right? And then also, like, I mean, Scorsese was a producer on this, right?
I believe so.
I
have no idea. I'm hoping that you have that right, because I don't know.
I'm pretty sure, because... I mean,
it looks kind of like a Scorsese film.
Right.
I mean, Robert De Niro's in it, and I would say if you're going to draw any parallels, it might be Taxi Driver and Joker. But,
right.
I mean...
No, I'm pretty sure, because I feel like in the last year and a half, when people talked about a standalone Joker movie, they said produced by Martin Scorsese. I'm pretty sure, but I just want to fact check that before I say my next thing. Because he also had some comments that just happened to go viral this week as well. Yeah, Joker producer. Here we go.
Here we go. Again,
now we're getting it.
It's almost as if
It's almost as if we know what we're doing, if we're professional podcasters. Whatever. I'm not gonna. Yeah, so. I don't see him there either. So maybe I know he was at least attached to it, because I know I heard that. But either way, whatever. He had comments that came out this year, and it just all felt strange to me that he had comments that came out that all of a sudden now are also picking up a lot of steam with film Twitter, all somewhat connected to this movie. He basically just said that he didn't think... Somebody asked him about Marvel movies, and he was like, "Man, they're not really my thing." He's like, "I don't really see them as cinema," is basically something he said.
But don't we expect Martin Scorsese to say things like that?
I know. Like, that's exactly what I expected him to say. I mean, have you ever heard him talk? I mean, who gives? But also, who gives a shit? Like, I don't understand why people are losing their minds, because who cares? Why do you care if Martin Scorsese likes Marvel movies or not? Like, I mean,
was he like, was somebody out there being like, man, like I was really hoping Scorsese would be in talks to do Black Panther 2.
Right.
Like,
I know.
Like,
no.
Are we...
It's not even close. I'm losing my mind over here. I just don't... it really bugs me, because I'm like, guys, why do you care? I mean, I really don't get why I mean, really, and like his comments weren't that bad. It's not like he was like, "Oh, they're a detriment to society and they're the worst piece of shit I've ever seen." And why would anyone who goes to see him it doesn't have a brain and they're the scum of the earth? All he said was like, "Yeah, they're not really my thing. He's like, I don't really see him as cinema." It's like, well, yeah, you know what this guy watches for leisure? He watches like a French film from 1945 that you have to have a separate machine to play the audio for. Like that's his cup of tea. That's what he likes. I mean, that's the complete opposite of Marvel movies. And it's like, and then it just happened, this just happened to come out the same weekend that Joker comes out, another, comic book movie, supposedly people are saying that are coming out. And then it also is drawing ties to Taxi Driver, which is a point I wanted to get to at some point, and well, you know what, we're here. I think
you got there.
I think I got here. So I don't know. I feel like I don't know what I think, because I go back and forth, because part of me is like, well, Taxi Driver is a good movie. Not really a hot take to say that. And I think that the only reason, now granted, to give you guys some backstory, it's not really backstory, it's a quick story, I promise. But when we used to have a blog, we had a couple blogs, but on one of them, the cover art was a picture of Travis Bickle alone in a theater watching a movie, and we both related to that, right?
This is how we feel.
This is exactly how we feel. At this moment, we saw that image, you put it up, and I was like, that's perfect.
Until I met you, that was me.
That was me. Every day.
Me and Martin Scorsese were watching Night at Marienbad
just
together.
Coked out. Would not stop doing Tony Montana piles of cocaine and just sitting in a movie theater and just watching them all night. And, I mean, we really did relate to that. I think a lot of people can relate to being in that state of mind and being just, I mean, maybe not necessarily that state of mind, but just like, it's a good film about a man being isolated and being lonely and just being kind of spiraling downwards. But I think that the only reason that movie is a classic is because of the ending. Because the whole movie, you're like, oh yeah, this is dark. Oh yeah, well, look at how twisted this guy is. Yep, it's dark. It's not like it's and Robert De Niro's performance is great in it, But in my opinion, it's like, yeah, okay, here we go. And then the ending comes, and you're like, whoa, holy shit. You're like, oh, I didn't actually see that coming. And I suppose I could spoil it.
You could probably spoil it.
I guess it came out in 1978 or 76, yeah. So I mean, it's been a while.
Like you can.
Yeah. So okay, fine. I'll just spoil it. There. So the ending is that basically he's crazy, and he thinks that by storming this whorehouse and killing these people, he's going to end up as a hero in his mind, which he has no reason to believe that. And he shaves his head into a mohawk, and he goes up and he shoots up a place. He gets shot, and then the movie ends, and then all of a sudden you see flashes of newspaper headlines, and all these headlines are calling him a hero and saying, oh my god, this vigilante, he was here to save us, oh, what an angel, and you're like, holy shit, like, wow, did that actually happen? Like, and it's just kind of a shocking ending, at least for me at the time. So I think that's kind of, for him to be remembered as a hero is very interesting and a funny ending to that movie. And then I feel like this movie, like, wasn't, it definitely leaned into being similar to Taxi Driver. Like, it was definitely like, the pitch for this was like, what if we made a Joker movie like Taxi Driver? And they were like, perfect. Do it almost the exact same if you can. Great. We're on it. Can you get Robert De Niro? I mean, I don't know if Robert De Niro can play Joker, but we'll get him in there.
Yeah.
You were going to do your pitch?
Oh, I was going to do it's just the Don Draper in the room. It's the Pope, except he's young. Yeah. Perfect. Sign me up. Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was, I don't know, part of it was like, well, I mean, they knew that was definitely their influence for it, and they leaned into it, and sometimes it was kind of like, okay, like, times where I was like, okay, I get it. This is a taxi driver and he's Joker. I get it. Let's keep going. But it was good and it was enjoyable and yeah, I don't know, but there were times where it was like, I get it. Okay, we can do other things.
What if we're your taxi driver, but without the taxi?
Right. Yeah.
How about that?
Hey, think about this, huh? He's not a taxi driver. He's a fucking clown, huh? We see him putting makeup on, huh? That's pretty fucking good, am I right? Okay, but only if you can lick a paintbrush, huh? That's what sold him.
Yes.
But then, so another point I wanted to bring up to you specifically to get your point across. Speaking of interesting marketing campaigns and tactics, one of the more memorable marketing tactics as far as the interview goes was back in 2010, I believe, 2010, when Joaquin Phoenix did a movie called I'm Still Here, which was at the time billed as a documentary about Joaquin Phoenix giving up acting and becoming a rapper, sort of, and him just being crazy. And the marketing for that film was for him to go on late night shows and just be completely detached and out of it, and people think, wow, this guy actually lost his mind. I have to see this documentary. And I think one of the seminal moments in the last 20 years on late night was him going on David Letterman, and David Letterman basically making fun of him. It was just like the most awkward interview you've ever seen, and Joaquin Phoenix was out of it and so weird. And then it went on to be viral. The movie did whatever, but then obviously after the movie came out, they were like, okay, well, that was just a tactic. Like, he was just playing a character, and it was fake, and that kind of threw people off. But it did help that movie a lot, was that piece of marketing of him just being that person.
I mean, are we sure it was fake?
Yes. Because he went on David Letterman later, and they talked about it.
But he's still done this. Like, I don't 100% agree with that, because I've read interviews of his over the years and seen him on stuff, and even for this, like, he walked out of an interview for the film where he wasn't aware that people were mad about it or didn't think that someone might shoot up a movie theater because of him. Like, I feel like he's still doing this. Like, he's still, or maybe it was just easy for him or desirable for him to go out and just bomb on these late night shows. Because I don't know. I don't really think it was totally a bit, and he comes on.
So you think that they did it as a cover up after the fact? To be like, oh, no, he wasn't actually like that. He was just doing a character. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Because the strangest part of that whole interview,
character of Joaquin Phoenix is sort of like this Andy Kaufman type,
right?
Deal where he right. Intentionally bombs or says ridiculous stuff. Mm-hmm. But yeah.
I mean, it's not. The truth is probably lies somewhere between the two. As with most things, but the most compelling piece of evidence in that first interview is at the end of it, he stands up straight and he leans in and shakes David's hand and just says, "Oh, thank you so much." And it's like, whoa, what was that? It was like he broke character for a second. You were just like, what? Like, you didn't give a shit this whole time. He's leaning back or whatever. And then as the camera's panning out, he stands up, gets close to him, shakes hands, like, "Oh, thank you so much." And he's talked about that later, because the director apparently, supposedly, this story tells that the director was mad at him for shaking David's hand because that showed him being out of character or whatever. Either way, it's an extremely compelling interview, but the point I was trying to make is that I couldn't help but think about that in the final scene of this movie. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to, whatever. If you've seen the trailers, you can see that Robert De Niro is a late night host, and you see him, the curtains opening for Joker, going on to his show. So I believe with those two pieces of information, you can put together that he goes on Robert De Niro's late night show at some point in the movie. Is that fair to say? I mean, I said it.
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
I don't care about spoilers.
Okay, yeah, fuck it.
If you don't want to be spoiled, don't
Yeah.
listen to a podcast about the Joker.
That's called Joker. Okay.
Yeah.
So the final scene when he's on the show, and they're talking, and it's kind of that like Robert De Niro was making fun of him earlier in the movie, a little bit on his show, and then he wants to bring him on, kind of as a bit, sort of like David Letterman would do. David Letterman would bring people on and make fun of him. But all in fun, you know, as David Letterman can do. But then he comes on, and there's that little moment where you think like it is like watching that interview or watching Andy Kaufman, like you said, like you and Tim and Eric sometimes, where you're like you can't really tell right away if he's fucking with them or if he's being real, you know. And then it takes a turn for the worse, and Rob De Niro takes lead to the face. And then the whole city erupts.
Takes lead to the face. What?
That one just came to me.
Yeah, what an incredible way to end an eloquent statement about...
Yeah.
And at the end,
and then he just
takes
some lead to the face, and we get about our business here.
You want some lead, boy?
you want Daddy to put some lead in you, son?
You want Daddy to put some lead in you, son?
That's what happened.
Come on, Taquito!
Taquito!
Die already!
Yeah. So
Oh, man.
I don't know. I'm not sure. Maybe it's my own pattern recognizing brain, but I just couldn't help but seeing Joaquin Phoenix on a late night show in a movie where you can't quite tell if he's fucking with him. And then I'm not saying that Joaquin Phoenix was like, hey, we should put a scene in this movie where this guy is a late night host, like the time I was on that late night. But instead of him making fun of me, this time I shoot him in the face. Like, I don't necessarily think that conversation happened. But I also think there's some interesting parallels. And then because of what happened on that late night show, the whole world lost their minds, you know, which could be me grasping at straws, but I just feel like there's some parallels there too. Do you have any thoughts? Do you think that you think?
I thought you were going to throw to our other guest on the show.
Yeah, we actually have Joaquin on. Let's have him tell us here.
Yeah.
In person.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Wait, can you do a Joaquin impression?
Yeah. Okay. So this is where I talk. Okay. Yeah. This is fun. Yeah. I think so. I definitely, again, I feel with how these things are made, and just like if you just take the cynical point of view, you could just say like, yeah, definitely this was probably something they talked about, and it makes sense for the character, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I think so.
As far
yeah.
as like his full character arc,
mm-hmm.
and essentially just being betrayed by everyone and everything in his life, and to just kind of have this one last white knight, the Murray Franklin character, kind of throw him under the bus, makes sense. And for as how far he's gone at this point, and not being on his medications, I just think, it seems like a logical ending. But I will say that for just a little bit, for like the first 10 seconds of that, you're like, this is like, maybe this turns out okay, but
yeah, really.
Because it's kind of like, hey, he's like, oh yeah, you know, this guy, he's like kind of killing, like the audience like sort of gets
they're
it,
into it,
or
yeah.
at least like with De Niro, the Murray Franklin character's assistants, he's
right.
He's entertaining the audience, but again, certainly doesn't turn out the best. I would. Let's see. Couple nitpicks.
Okay.
Here. So, do you think, again, I enjoyed this film. I thought it was good. Again, I love Joaquin. Do you think there's like and I don't know how to fix this.
Okay.
But do you think there's like just a little bit too much Joaquin Phoenix here? Are we asking a little bit too much? Is he on the court for like maybe like a little bit too long here?
Right. Yeah, I hadn't considered that, but I think you might be onto something, because I feel like this movie is now starting to have the lore of being like, well, this is a great performance, but the movie as a whole, maybe not quite as good, and that's probably due to that very fact.
And I guess this is like the nature of Joaquin Phoenix, but he starts at like an 11, and he doesn't really allow himself like much like room to grow.
Yeah, true.
I mean, within the first like 10 minutes of the film, he's like laughing uncontrollably, and it's just a still shot of his face. I mean, it's a lot to ask. Like I think he gets there.
Yeah.
But I just wish like maybe there was like a little bit more on the periphery going on. Like that.
Yeah.
I feel like that's why The Dark Knight works so well, is because the Joker is on screen for a fraction of the time that Batman is, and
right.
It feels fresh every single time he's on the screen. You're like, oh my god,
right.
Oh my god, and then you can dial it up. Then you can actually go to a 12, and it doesn't feel forced. But
right.
At like the 40-minute mark, you're kind of starting to be like, okay,
all right,
like
I get it.
I got it.
Yeah,
it's like there's not like outside of him, tucking his junk between his legs and playing Goodbye Horses.
Yeah.
Like I feel like there's just not a lot more you can do.
Right.
To like say like, hey guys, I'm feeling some stuff in my head right now, and I don't know what to do with it. I don't really have an outlet.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. No, I think you're absolutely right, and I think that kind of goes to my point earlier, where I was like, I don't really know what it is, but it just kind of felt like, you're like, yeah, I get it. He just keeps going. Yeah, he's on a downward spiral. Okay, he's crazy. I think you're right. I think it's just because I think you nailed it. He's got the ball too long. And I think that, to bring up another comparison, I think Silence of the Lambs. Everybody remembers Anthony Hopkins in that film, but he's only on screen for, notoriously, 11 minutes or whatever.
I don't remember Anthony Hopkins in that film at all.
Yeah.
I only remember Buffalo. Would you fuck me? I fucked me so hard.
Was you a great big fat person?
It's only Buffalo Bill in that film.
Well, whatever. Shut up. My point is, he won an Oscar for only having, what was it, like 11 minutes of screen time or something. But what people forget about that movie is that it's a great movie. From top to bottom, it's a really good movie, and then he just gets to come in and chew scenery in those.
Yes.
Chew.
And guess what happens when you try to be like, people really like that Hannibal character. Let's just do a film all about that guy. Doesn't work that well.
Doesn't work that well. You're right, and I just think that if we had more of a, because the character arc he has, you're with him, but it's also like you said, it's like, it's not. I don't know. It's not like he didn't start out super fucked up, So it's like he doesn't have a whole lot
Walter
to
White.
go.
He's
not,
he's not
Harvey
a middle
Dent.
school science teacher.
Yeah, right.
He kind of starts out with not a whole lot of redeemable qualities.
Yeah.
I mean, it's again, he's had some tough breaks, but
yeah, but I mean, I don't know. Maybe would it? Okay, here's a question for you: would it have been a more interesting movie if we had a parallel character who, I don't know, didn't, maybe his friend, maybe not, but just someone who was more of like the conscience of the film, to basically serve as the audience surrogate, to feel the emotions we're feeling, and to be more of a palate cleanser to bounce off of Joaquin.
Yeah, perhaps. I just feel like this film was like long in the makings. I without a doubt, this film gets made 10 years ago if Heath Ledger doesn't pass tragically young.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Does that film work? A standalone Heath Ledger film?
Yeah,
does
I
it
don't
take
know.
having 10 years off? I just feel like it's a really unique situation where, in this case, I think most of the breaks went pretty well.
Yeah.
Again, like it'd be tough. Like, you'd really have to like rethink a lot of stuff to kind of have that secondary character and have it make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Because most of the characters in this film are just simply there to as window dressing. Like there's nothing for Zazie Beetz to do the love interest in it besides just be his neighbor.
Yeah.
And yeah, again, I mean, it's tough, but I mean,
and I think
I will say there's a lot of like really good that guys in this film. Bill Camp playing the detective.
Yeah. Mark Maron as the producer on the show. Loved him.
Yeah. Like Brett Cullen as Thomas Wayne.
Oh, yeah.
I love that reimagining where Thomas Wayne is like a normal rich guy and
he's
just a fucking dick.
Exactly. It's like, well, he really doesn't like poor people coming up to him. Like that makes sense for a rich guy.
Yeah, like the type of guy that's just gonna like punch you in the bathroom, just sucker punch you. Like I like that. That's incredible.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like that gets enough credence. Like if we want to go back and do another Spider-Man film where Uncle Ben is like a degenerate gambler and a prick, and I'm all for that. Like let's go. Let's rewrite all of it.
Oh man. Yeah.
Because and no, it's
and I think that a point being. So I hate to admit this, but being a Minnesota Vikings fan, for a long time we had Adrian Peterson. He's a running back, and our teams weren't necessarily all that great because we didn't have a lot of talent around it, but we had this great generational talent, and so our offense was basically just give the ball to Adrian Peterson 30 times a game. And, sometimes we'll win, sometimes we won't, but either way, we're giving him the ball, and we'll see what happens. And I feel like, if I was in Todd Phillips' shoes, and I have Joaquin Phoenix willing to play Joker, and willing to just go full-on crazy, that's probably what my game plan would be, too. I would be like, look, man, I get it, but I have Joaquin here, and I'm going to give him the ball. And, if you're going to die on that sword, that's what I'll do. And it's not a failure. Like this is a good film, I think. And it's nice and dark, but I think that's about where it ends. And I don't think it transcends anything. And I don't think it's more than the sum of its parts, but it's just a good movie. I think it's well made, very well acted, great performance, and really dark, and that's about it. And I think that, I just think that the controversy around it, and people talking about it I don't think it has much to do with the content of the film itself.
Is Robert I'm sorry you did this, but is Robert De Niro, is he Brett Favre or Brad Childress in your comparison?
Man, that's a good question.
Yeah. Is he chilly?
Yeah, he's Brad Childress. He's not Brett Favre. I would even maybe give him, Sage Rosenfels or Gus Frerotte,
Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
Favre is arguably a top 10 quarterback of all time.
Yeah.
Before every team started passing the ball, I'd say De Niro's up there as well. Like,
as an older Favre, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
right?
Fine. That's fine.
You
can have it.
You asked for this. Wild Minnesota Vikings.
You're right. That's fine. Everyone, it was on the tip of everybody's. When's he gonna say it? When's he gonna say it?
Yeah. No. I enjoyed. So I saw this in a full theater.
Yeah, me
full
too.
of bros. I think this is very popular amongst the college bros.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so Luke has had the pleasure, and I've had the pleasure as well. Pleasure is mutual, of seeing many films together, and from time to time, I will laugh.
You'll be like Joker in this film. You'll be like, you have a medical condition, and you can't help but just burst out laughing at inappropriate times.
And so when he killed the guy with his scissors, I thought it was hilarious. And I think people thought I was ironically laughing. Like, they thought, like, this fucking guy thinks he's the Joker. Like, they're starting to get worried about me. Or when Sinatra comes on and he's dancing down the stairs, like, nobody else in the theater was laughing except for me. And I felt like I was ruining some people's experience. But I'm sorry. That's always how it is. And
it is. Yeah.
I will apologize. It was not ironic laughing. So I felt for the good Mr. Arthur Fleck there, because I think I'd have the same thing.
Yeah, you should. You should carry around a card that says sorry.
I lean towards the Arthur Fleck spectrum a little bit more than I'd like to admit.
Yep, 100%. Yep.
And so I was drawing parallels to myself, which is frightening.
Yeah, I mean, there's
all the more reason why you probably should find a new guest.
Yeah, I really should. I should be, because I mean, somebody who's easier to work with, and I'm glad you drew those parallels yourself, and that I didn't have to, because I've been worried about that for years. I mean, people didn't see. I mean, believe it or not, loyal listeners, this is the cleaned up Old Legs. Like, I mean, there was a time when Old Legs was on his meds. Yeah, exactly. There was a time when Old Legs was sleeping in the gutter with a a half drinking pounder of Bud Light shoved up his ass.
I'm like the start of every Stallone movie from 81 to 86.
Oh my God, that's so perfect.
Rolls out of bed, throws on a t-shirt, takes a bite of half a bit of cold pizza and swigs it down with some Maker's Mark.
Yeah.
And my name is it's a really demasculized name. It's like Meredith or I think I just described
that's so perfect.
The cold open Cobra or something like that.
It's pretty much beat for beat exactly what that film comes out. Well, now don't apologize. So now when Shia plays you in our movie, in the L Squared movie, he has something to draw from. That'll be his inspiration.
Exactly. I think that's the only thing that this film is missing. Is
some Shia LaBeouf. Oh my God, yes. That would be great.
I think perhaps that might have been Todd Phillips' second call.
Oh yeah. I think that's probably fair. And the thing about like Joaquin, I think it's safe to say Joaquin is probably he's unhinged, I would say, and probably honestly probably a little bit crazy. And I think that's all safe to say. But I mean I just feel like Shia just lives it, man, no matter what he does. So I don't know if I want to live in a world where Shia LaBeouf is trying to be the Joker. But I guess, like he said, he's the anti-method, so maybe he wouldn't take it home. But I don't know. I just feel like that dude.
So you're worried if you went to wake him up at 3 a.m, who are you gonna get?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm afraid of. Yep. All right. Well, I mean, final thoughts. Good dark movie. I think we both think the controversy is bullshit. I think it takes away from the film. But I mean, whatever. If you wanted to see it, go see it. I think this is a good one to see on the big screen. I think some shots in this movie blew me away. There were 4 or 5 shots in this where I was like, wow, that's amazing. I loved it, but whatever, I'm a nerd. But I just, it's also Gotham City is basically New York. It takes place in, whatever looks like the 70s. So, I mean, if you're going to put a movie based in a setting that's like New York in the 70s, you're pandering to me at that point, and I'm probably going to like it. But either way, I'd say go see it.
Yeah, go see it. Go see it if you want to see it, because that's your choice. And guess what? If you don't want to see it, you don't have to.
Whoa.
You know what you can do?
What's that?
You can do something else.
What?
You can there are lots of choices.
Wow. Find a
Make
hobby,
another
guys.
choice. Go watch Fleabag.
There you go. That's
Go
a
do anything.
choice.
Go read a book. Go read
Yeah.
Dune. Go watch
Don't
anime.
do that. No,
Go-
you don't need to.
You can do
that either.
anything. Okay? You don't have to be upset just because people tell you to be upset.
Wow.
And I don't know. It's a good film.
It is. We'll end it
That's
on
our
that.
recommendation.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
That's all it is. See it if you want to. If you don't, do something productive with your life.
Right.
But you can follow me on Twitter at LukeLarson89. You can find this podcast at L2 Podcast on Facebook, L Squared Podcast on Instagram, on Twitter. And then you can find the podcast on SoundCloud. We're on YouTube. And I don't know. I mean, do we have a fucking a new fucking Patreon thing we want to do?
We're working on that. We're gonna get back into that bit.
Yeah.
We don't want to.
We don't want to use up all our good ideas all at once.
Right.
We got to spread them out a little bit. We gotta give you guys your money's worth here.
It's on hold right now.
It's on hold.
We're looking for ways to clean your guys' dirty money.
Right. That is the main thing. Yeah.
Luke's he's in a economy class right now, and he's learning.
It's a lot
He's
of work.
Ben
guys.
Affleck in the accountant.
Yeah. And by economy class, he means that I'm just watching Ozark again, over and
Yes. Yeah, it's exactly. He's watching films about people learning to do subjects that we don't know anything about. That's how we learn everything. That's how we learn how to do a podcast.
Exactly right. That's exactly right.
So,
we're right about that.
I don't have high hopes, but hey, you know what? There's always tomorrow, right?